The fine folks at Harpoon Productions have got a new movie coming out in January 19th. It's called Cult Killer, and it stars Antonio Banderas and Alice Eve and Shelley Hennig. And it's an American production, but it's filmed in Ireland. And it's called Cult Killer, and it's all about somebody killing cults.
That is
check it out.
You know, the minute I heard the title, I wanted to watch it. But then I was also relieved it wasn't one of those everybody in robes kind of ritual culty things, which I find is kind of boring for some reason. I'm not that interested in cult movies, but this was not that, so I was relieved.
Well, my thought initially, Cult Killer, was that there was a cult around a killer, like there was a serial killer who had a following, or that people were sort of defending them the way people sort of defend, the present. In our present world, there are people out there who defend criminals because they're in that criminal's cult. I guess I was thinking, yeah. But what if there was a killer that suddenly had a huge following of people around him that were, that was what I thought.
That's what the title implies, but it's not that. It's about a private investigator played by Banderas who meets a woman in a bar because she gets in a situation. She's
gutsy. She's got some heart. She's
she's got some gutsy. She can handle herself. And they kind of form an alliance, and he becomes her mentor, and just teaches him the ways of being a private eye. And
because he sees
very early on,
right?
Yeah.
Right. Because
she saw the way she handled these assholes in the bar and was like, she got some skills. Right. So, and this movie does have a lot of flashbacks because basically, this is not giving too much away, but something happens early on, and it's all about Alice Eve's character trying to figure out what happened. And it's an investigation. I think we can talk a little bit. I mean, there'll be some spoilers. We don't want to ruin it because we want people to watch it, but
it's not out yet.
Full on vigilante justice is what this movie's about. And so I got that as like the kind of cool things like that. There were 3 dominant female characters that were the center of the story. We never see that. This just does. And they're all varying degrees of age, which was interesting too. So we had different levels of female angst and victimization and revenge and damage and all this make women afraid, and why they react the way they do, and why men may not understand it. And so I thought that was kind of interesting. So it was kind of I Spit on Your Grave crossed with True Detective. I mean, it kind of was like seeing that.
There is that connection between, especially 2 of the 3 characters, have that uneasy sort of connection. That's really kind of the heart of the film. Mm-hmm. Whereas Banderas is more sort of the over.
He's the mentor, the man who has to teach women what to do because they cannot figure it out themselves. So we will have a man in this movie.
He's like the grizzled old guy that just wants to pass his knowledge down to someone, and because he's kind of getting, you feel like he's wanting to sort of back out of it and retire maybe, and
I liked him in it. Like, it was nice to see him in something like in a dominant role, even though he didn't have a ton of screen time, more than I thought actually going into it. I thought it was more than I thought, but it was cool to see him again. I hadn't seen him in a long time, and I remember he was just in Indiana Jones. Now he looks fantastic. It's like, why is he not doing more? Why am I not seeing him more stuff? Am I just not seeing the movies he's in?
Well, I think he does those Puss in Boots movies. And goes, hey, I can just go in.
He's not in those.
Yeah, I know, but he gets great money for
It's not the same. But he's cashing a check for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
On that.
That's not a bad gig where you just go into
it's a very good
with
gig.
the microphone and just talk.
You show up in short pants and flip flops.
No makeup, no hours on the set. That's not. But he
was great. He was great in this. I thought I enjoyed when he showed up on screen. I was glad he was there. I enjoyed their interaction. Him teaching her the ropes and her kind of impressing him. Like, he's like, oh, she's doing well with this. I thought that was pretty cool. I mean, there were maybe some story issues on like maybe people acting illogically, but I feel like to do that, to amp up the stakes, you almost had to have someone be alone for whatever reason, in danger, where you feel like that'd have been really easy to just take someone with you to do that. But overall, I thought it was also shot in Ireland, which was gorgeous and cool looking, and I love the city streets, and the moody skies were great.
Yeah,
great.
Yeah, no, it's nice to see a movie in another location and other than New York or Los Angeles. And the location certainly lends a lot to the story. The house, there's an old house in this that just has this this old European gravitas to it when you think about what goes on in that house and the traditions, these ancient weird not ancient but these sort of ongoing traditions that might go on behind these old ancient closed doors.
Yeah. And also the Irish pub, which is there's a pub that's classic, and there's a lot of and this is something that's more my issue than the movies, but I've seen this a lot of shows when there's a lot of flashbacks back and forth. I sort of it takes me a little bit out of the plot, I think, and there's a lot of that in this. That's kind of the main story structure, and sometimes I feel like I just want to see that's the story I'm interested in, not necessarily going back and doing that. So that was, if I had an issue with the film, it was that, but there was a lot of good things. Alice Eve is really good in it. And Shelley Hennig, who is another strong character. She's, it seems like has a lot of fun with that role. So
flashbacks are weird because when you do have flashbacks as a writer and director, they have to think about what, when you're flashing back to something that happened last year, you have to think about, okay, the characters who are thinking that or imagining that, or the characters whose story is being sort of interrupted to reminisce about something, and it's a strange convention in films, but you have to figure out what are these people doing while the flashback is happening. You know what I mean? It's like, do you have somebody just looking off and looking into the fire, and then you have a flashback, and then when you come back out of the flashback, they're still looking at the fire, and those transitions are weird, and those are the things that make flashbacks kind of confusing sometimes when it's just a hard cut.
We had those like little bit of a moment. I guess they wanted to show like how people came to, be hurt the way they were hurt, how they were channeling their reactions to that, and how they tried to come to terms with it. And each woman had a different way of handling what had happened to her. And I thought that was kind of interesting to see that, and that they all kind of ended up in the same place.
No, it all sort of, everybody's backstory has to be told. It sort of gives you further, character development and motivation. So I get that. It's just a lot of times I want that propulsive, like what's going on with the investigation to continue and not go back. It's not just me. Yeah, that's just me. But
they
overall, very well acted.
Yeah, I think they wanted to feel deeper than just the crime story. They wanted to show you more. But I agree. I mean, I was into the crime story. To me, was great. I mean, I loved it. I loved that it was the female characters again dominating that and storyline, and the whole central focus of the crimes that were happening were fascinating. But the flashbacks, I guess, were kind of necessary. But the crime story was so compelling, I just wanted to stay with it.
That's my point. Also, it's interesting. It's an American production, but it was all like mostly foreign actors. It was just kind of interesting. It felt like a British film or an Irish film, but it was American production. Jon Keeyes directed it. Charles Burnley wrote it. So it's one of those, if you like that kind of stuff, you delve right in, because it's an investigative, what's going on, what happened to these characters, and there's some violence and some gore for people.
That's why I liked it. Well, I mean, that's not why I liked it, but I liked that it was hard hitting. Like, I feel like I see so much of it, and when I feel them pulling their punches, or they try and make it too palatable for a broader audience, so it feels a little weak. This does not feel weak. That, like, they bring it, they make it feel like the violence really hurts. They make it feel like it's there and very visceral. So, and you could feel the anger, like it was very emotional kind of violence. So I thought that was kind of refreshing in a way. I know it's weird to say that about violence, but I see so many crime shows and so many crime movies, and it's just like they play it so safe. And I feel like this movie wasn't really playing it safe. So thank you.
So and that's coming out to on demand or streaming on January 19th. And so check it out.
Yes.
If you want one of those for the evening, check it out. It's well worth seeing.
It's great to watch like on a this kind of weather, like January creepy weather. It's dark and rainy or cold. This is a great one to watch that because it just feels like Ireland.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for watching. See you guys soon. Bye.